Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You join me, the WildWestGamer, here on the WildWestGamer in the Gaming Grotto. Today we are not doing a review. I'm not doing an opinion video. I'm in fact doing my impressions of God of War Ascension. I haven't got it to give it a review. I wish I did, but I don't. And because I've only played the demo, it's not fair to do a review based just on that. But I am going to give my impressions of it, because I think that that's just as important. So basically, what you can take from this is how I'm seeing it. This is how I'm hoping the rest of the game is going to be like, etc., etc. Bits and bobs like that. And do I reckon it's worth checking the demo out for an idea of what the actual full game is going to be like? So, God of War Ascension. Well, first thing about God of War Ascension is that it's a game that I didn't really expect for them to make. After God of War 1, 2, 3, Chains of Olympus and Ghost of Sparta, as well as Bloodline, which was a phone game. I'm sorry, Chains of Olympus and Ghost of Sparta being PSP, as well as having a HD remake for the PlayStation 3. God of War 1 and God of War 2 being PS2, and God of War 3 being PlayStation 3. I've got that all sorted out. I thought they would stop. I assumed the story with Kratos and Zeus and the Greek gods had all been tied up. I really didn't think there'd be much left to do. We knew who his father was, we knew about his mother, we knew about his brother Deimos. We really knew everything we needed to about Kratos. But, and this is a but, there is a lot of time left between God of War 1 and, there's a lot of time in between God of War 1, which is unaccounted, and there's a lot of stuff between the Gods of War, etc., etc. So, yeah, there you have it. That's basically why this game exists, because they want to tell the rest of the story about Kratos. And there is a lot to tell. Now, a lot of people rag on Kratos, saying he's very two-dimensional, he's just a guy consumed by rage. He is, but if you play all of the installments, they make sure they build up enough for you to understand why. This is a guy who lost his mother, this is a guy who's lost his brother, this is a guy who's lost his wife and daughter. He has lost everything in one way or another due to the betrayal of the gods, or certain gods, but due to the inaction or inability of the gods to stop it from happening. He feels that it is all of their fault, and you kind of come to see it. Now, I did think at first that Kratos comes across as being just a bit spoiled, but when you kind of consider that he's had his mind and his brain sort of scarred and torn apart by the manipulations of Ares and Zeus, when he finds out that from his birth he was always going to suffer a fate at the hands of his father, due to the fact his father had betrayed his father and his father's father betrayed his father's father, and that Zeus was going to try and stop that from happening. When you learn that his mother is keeping secrets from him, when you learn that that he'd been lied to about the death of his brother, when he'd killed his own daughter and wife, by his own blades, in a state of madness induced by Ares, you get why he's so angry. I mean, this guy has only never ever known pain and suffering from the deities who were supposed to protect him. His own father, for God's sake, Zeus, was supposed to protect him. So yeah, and also because by being he is the marked warrior, he is the chosen warrior in a lot of different prophecies, it has also bred jealousy amongst some of the other demigods, such as Hercules, as we see in God of War 3. So you understand it, and you see a little bit about why he is so angry, and that sort of is why I would be more interested in seeing more stories about Kratos, because I'm not tired of that. I'm not tired of the rage, I'm not tired of the anger, but I'm also more interested to see what other secrets his life has. For a man that we consider to be very two-dimensional, or some people consider to be very two-dimensional, he certainly has a lot going about him, a lot of interesting story points. Ghost of Sparta is a very personal story for Kratos. I'd recommend you check it out for the PlayStation Portable. It's a very, very good game, and you see a lot more about the sort of inner workings of Kratos and how he does care. He really does care. He will risk utter pain, pure pain, to rescue his brother. from the underworld. So it's not like he's selfish. He does care. Likewise, he sacrifices his chance to ever be with his daughter in God of War Chains of Olympus. He sacrifices his only chance to ever be with his daughter in paradise to save the world. Now that's not the actions of a selfish man. That's not very two-dimensional either. He accepts that he has to be a monster. He has to be a killer in order to do what can't be done by other people. Now, yes, this is quite bizarre when you consider that during God of War 3 he basically demolishes the entire world in order to get his vengeance, which is again does come across as slightly selfish. But it's because of the ever-changing stories and the ever-changing events around him which cause him to have to make these very big decisions. And also at the end of God of War 3, and I've been putting out minor spoilers, but this is a big spoiler, so turn away. You've got the 5-second rule to get away, turn down the volume, turn away, whatever. But there may be spoilers from this point forward, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once I saw a fish alive. You've been warned. At the end of God of War 3, he sacrifices himself. He takes the blade of Olympus and stabs himself through the chest. Now that's a big fucking sword, dude. So he knows that this is probably going to be a one-way trip. He does that in order to release hope back into the world, which will breathe. He ignores the ghost of Athena, who's saying to him, "I can be the deity that you need," which is all rather ambiguous considering, the gods have been so, not exactly the most trustworthy of beings in the past. He does that. He says, "No, man must decide for himself," and he does it. He's straight through the chest. Of course, we see the blood trail at the end, so. He's probably still alive, and the fact that there's apparently an Easter egg for God of War Ascension, which hints at God of War 4. Excuse me. So, my impressions of playing God of War Ascension. God of War Ascension, yeah, really good fun. I really enjoyed it. Again, it's a return to the good old-fashioned God of War, full-on brutal combat. One man against the world. Really, really good. The graphics. Oh my god! Right, God of War 3 was called graphic porn. Seriously, you could sit and dribble over that game. It was a good-looking game. It was really good. The graphics made it so epic. When you saw these titans clambering over you, taking on the gods. All the enemies looked brilliant. The violence was ridiculous. This was definitely this was not a game for your kids. This was a game for adults. And you certainly felt it. Very, 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 very brutal game, and it looked great. Now that doesn't make a game. Again, like I always say, quality over clarity, and there is a lot of quality in this game. Santa Monica Studios are incredible. They have yet again one-upped themselves. The graphics in this game look even better, and this game deliberately pulls up close to Kratos so that you can see how good he looks. His eyes are fully there. Every little tiny bit of him is detailed. You can see his pupils, the whites of his eyes. You can see every line, every scar on his body. You can see when the blood splats up on him again, like it did in a couple of the God of Wars, which is always cool. Very nice touch. That's all on there, running off his body. The blades are all very beautifully modelled. All of the weapons, the way he moves, all of the enemy, like the finishes on the enemies are brutal, horrific. He's ripped open the heads of these elephant creatures and rips their brains out. It's like that, and you see it all, and that is brutal. But it, at the same time, is so good to see a game that that bold and brash, and to use graphics to such a powerful for such a powerful reason. You don't fight any of those elephant warriors in this game. That was in the demo they showed at E3 or wherever it was, but that was cool. In this game you fight. In this game you're in the Furies layer, I guess you would call it. It's a layer built on the Titan of Hecatoncheires, who is this multi-armed, multi-limbed Titan who betrayed the gods during the war against the Titans, between the gods and the Titans. Traced the same ground there about 5 times. That was pretty clever. So yeah, And basically you start the game imprisoned. The Furies have taken you. The Furies have taken you and captured you for your betrayal. Now I'm trying to think why that is. Oh yeah, no, of course, yeah, because of course you break your oath, your blood oath with Ares after he kills his wife and daughter. Of course, that makes sense now. Yeah, so they take you to the Hecatonchires where you're going to be tortured, and where you are going to be made to suffer for your breaking your oath. Of course, as Kratos, you've got other ideas, and you endure torture so that you may escape and you break free, and then you're basically chasing one of the Furies across the Hecatonchires, fighting her minions and fighting her way through. Now this is great because it starts off very simple, taking on these these insects that take the host of the prisoners and turn them into these mutated insect warriors, which are very cool and gruesome to fight. They're awesome. As you're fighting, it all comes back to you. The chained weapons, the chains of chaos, blades of chaos. In this one, you're using them, you're slicing them apart, ripping them in half, all this stuff. As you fight them, your rage meter goes up, and once you reach your rage meter, that then unleashes your more types of moves, which is quite cool. So it encourages you to keep this flowing, constant combat going in order to reach it, and then unlock some really truly powerful ones. Taking enemies up into the sky, air hiking them up there, slicing them up, grappling enemies, finishers, all this sort of stuff. Really good stuff back. Then you carry on through it. You've seen all this beautifully realised environment. You're basically moving through like a giant prison built inside a Titan. So there's the walls are both made out of brick and wood and flesh and bone. It's very cool. You'll come outside and realise you're like about 10,000 feet up in the air. It's ridiculous. Such a good game. Really well done. Really enjoyable to play, really enjoyable to fight in an area which has been so well realised. Then, as you're getting close to the Fury, you realise that these little insects can take control of the dead, the Hecatonchires, who is sort of, I guess he's in this half-dead state, which start mutating his many limbs, and you start fighting these giant mutated limbs of his, which look like these giant insect warriors, but made out of his limbs, which is it's all very Geiger, very disturbing, very twisted, and of course that gets to show off some of Kratos' brutal quick time event kills. Now I'm not a big fan of QTEs because normally they're just very bland, but in God of War, yeah, they are cool. They really, really earn their keep. The destruction in this part of the game, the demo they showed, is fantastic. The masonry is getting destroyed, buildings ripped down, everything. Really good. Bit where Kratos is thrown down this sort of collapsing part of the Hecatonchires, and you're sliding down, dodging stuff, which is again really cool. Sliding down this wall. What's cool is throughout the demo there are these little Easter eggs, little not the memoirs, I don't know, they're these scrolls with the sort of the like a witness of the events on the Hecatonchires, inside the city that's been built on him, this prison city, and it refers to the Marked One being born. Now, this game is going. I'm sure that this was a little teaser to get you enticed, but I'm sure this game is going to have something to do with Kratos' childhood as well, because it refers to the scribe of Hecatonchires. That's what it is. He makes reference to the marked child who has just been born, and how is it that his future has been laid out in such a way when he's so young. References to that this young child is going to endure pain, throughout his life, and that fate, he's not been just chosen by fate; he's been chosen by the higher beings. Mixed messages. You don't know if it's implying the Furies may be his mother. That's why they're so angry with him. There's references to again Zeus being your father. Lots of different Easter eggs. And I really want to get hold of this game to play it, to see how it turns out, because there was a lot of really interesting stuff in this level to make you go, ooh, what's that all about? In this game combat, you can now grab other weapons that are dropped. You can use single-handed swords, you can use spears, all sorts of things, which is really cool. But of course, you can always quickly go back to using your Blades of Chaos, switching between them. You sacrifice your heavy attack if you pick up another weapon, which is cool, because it means you can very quickly swap between weapons on the fly, to really spice up combat. The cool bit in the level, you solve some few minor puzzles. You break this part of the world is broken off in one of the many hands of the Hecatonchires, and you're inside it fighting these insect minions as it's bashing the bird and trying to crush it with you inside. Cool bit is when you run in, there's a prisoner, a very muscular, heavy built warrior, who as the roof is ripped off, the Hecatonchire is about to crush this guy, and he says, "By the grace of the gods, please save me, and you have my loyalty," or something like that. I don't know what it is. And he disappears in a flash of light. Now, whether this is you unlocking the character skins or character models for the multiplayer, because you don't get to test it out in this demo, but there is a multiplayer element to it, or whether it is a character who will appear later on in the game, I don't know. But it's very cool. It made you go, well, what was all that about? Again, when you're fighting inside this thing, you're fighting inside this bit of a building that's being held. Just take all the enemies out. You've got to quickly jump out as it's again crushed as you leap out. Again, set pieces like this, very cool, make you feel part of massive worlds. And then after that, again, you're moving through this area to come towards your final battle with, again, another one of these limb beasts, I guess we would call them, these mutated limb beasts of the Hecatonchires. Again, really good fight. Combat's very fulfilling, very brutal. The final finisher for this one is ridiculously brutal, very cool. Really, makes you go ooh, in that classic God of War way. You felt it. And yeah, TJ Carson, the guy who voices Kratos, is in this. Again, classic Kratos, really good guy, fully getting into it. Really, really good return to Kratos. And the trailer ends with you, having made your way through the demo. So it makes its way with you having made your way through the Hecatonchires, taking on the final one of these limb beasts. You only fight them twice, but the last one is the second one is has got a slight more modifications to it, I should say, or growths. Instead of just being this, sort of imagine my arm. Where my hand is instead, growing up between my fingers is hideous insect beast. Both coming off of these arms as two other arms which move around. So it's quite a big creature to fight, and it's got these two blades as well that it slices at you with. And yeah, you kill that. That's the end of the demo. That's the end of it. It ends in quite a way, doesn't it? It ends with Kratos, I think, in the hands of one of the Hecatonchires, being smashed against the wall. And you don't know what happens. It just looks like it gets crushed. This is quite cool. Nice cliffhanger. Always nice to end on a cliffhanger. Of course, the demo for God of War 3 did a similar thing. Ended with you about to land and, full on in the face of a Titan who was trying to take you out throughout the level. That's cool. That's really cool. Really, really makes you go, ooh, what's going to happen after that? So, all in all, my impressions of God of War, it is classic God of War. It's a return to what we know, it's a return to what we love. Again, Santa Monica, massive credit to them with what I've seen so far. It looks to me like they are learning, they have innovated, there are changes to gameplay, they have updated the graphics, they've brought in, they've really brought in new, it's not, again, it's even though it's still Greek mythology, it's still more interesting parts of Greek mythology, bits that you've always imagined that, you always imagine what lie behind the curtains of God of War. There was the stuff that they showed you, but there was always, other things. Like they talked about the Titans, but we never got that much. We never got to see that many types. There was Gaia, and then there was, the England God of War 3, and then there was Kronos, and there was a couple of other ones, but never that many. Well, the Hecatonchires, really cool, interesting design. Cool to see the Titan that you actually are. The scale of Kronos when you fight him in God of War 3, and Gaia. Imagine that, how big they are in their size and scale. Then imagine the fact that you're then fighting on a city built on the Hecatoncrete in God of War Ascension. So yeah, looks to be an interesting story. Looks to be interesting combat. I know there's a lot of interesting powers that you gain in this game. I've seen that in the other demo. A lot of interesting enemies to fight. Just a really cool looking game. Full on meaty action. Definitely for a mature audience. But yeah, really, really looks good. Of course, remember that this is going to be probably one of the last God of War games for this console. It's probably not the last. So it's sort of like a, whether there was talk about God of War making transcending Greek mythology and going to do Norse. Now, whether or not that was Kratos or not, I wouldn't mind. But a new God of War set in the Norse mythology would be awesome. We get to see more snowy effects, more mountains. Like imagine God of War crossed with Skyrim. That would be awesome. I don't mean like an RPG free worlder. What I mean is though that that sort of sense. Be like getting the weapons of the gods. Mjolnir from Thor would be awesome. Perhaps you would fight with the gods against a new enemy. Well, no, of course, because Norse mythology would be the Ragnarok versus the gods. Perhaps you would fight with the gods against the Ragnarok, or perhaps again you would fight as a mortal, betrayed by both sides of the forces. You'd be betrayed by the trolls and the goblins and whatever, the forces of the coming Ragnarok, and the enemies of the gods, that will cause the Ragnarok and the death of the gods. Perhaps you were a person caught between the gods and the Aesir and the beasts, the demons, and you were the cause of the Ragnarok. That would be a cool idea to see where God of War will go. I think that with God of War Ascension, like I say, it's an impression. I haven't played the full thing. Maybe if this was God of War's swan song, maybe, I don't know how it sets it up in the end. Like I say, they've set up, there was clearly sequel bait in this game with an Easter egg. There is apparently there is a puzzle that if you unlock a certain incentive to keep your eyes peeled for any of them. God of War 4. Would I like to see more Kratos after this? Yeah. I'd still be happy to play as Kratos, but I think that somewhere else would be a lot more interesting as well. Somewhere else. There's nothing to say. God of War doesn't, it's not Kratos of War. It's not God of Kratos. It is God of War. There is very ambiguity in that title. So do it. Do it. Perhaps Santa Monica, think of other ideas. Maybe lose God of War altogether, but do another God-based game in another game. It doesn't have to be God of War. It could be perhaps a spiritual successor to God of War, but do it for another, Egyptian gods, Norse gods, whatever. Really, really cool to see what you got in mind. So yeah, that was my impressions of God of War Ascension. Really cool. As you can see, the menu's behind me. It looks really cool. Really nice menu. I'm not a massive fan of multiplayer being in this game. It's a bit like when they announced multiplayer for Assassin's Creed and for Dead Space. You know what? Too many games nowadays are insisting on having multiplayer. It doesn't need to happen. I've got plenty of games behind me, both retro and old. Retro and new, which don't have multiplayer in them, and then I have retro and new ones which do. Now, it comes down to really what type of game it is. I mean, I've got Ruse just there, right here. That works for multiplayer. That is a game that needs multiplayer. But I've got Harry Potter there and the Philosopher's Stone. Do you think that needs multiplayer? No. Well, they tried sticking it in there, didn't they? Cramming that in. Likewise, Metal Gear Solid. Got Metal Gear Solid there as well for the PlayStation 1. Did that need multiplayer? No, but they stuck that in there for the PlayStation 3, didn't they? So, swings and roundabouts, I guess. You can't really do much about that. But yeah, guys, that was my impressions of God of War Ascension. I hope you enjoyed it. I expect most of you who are interested by now have either got it or are going to get it. Like I say, if you've got it, I'd love to hear what you reckon about it. So stick in a comment or a review. Get on right in and saying what you think. Please subscribe and please stay tuned. I'm going to have some more stuff coming up over the next couple of days, though it isn't going to be No, it will be, yeah, it'll be, tomorrow and the next day. Next couple of days after that, they're quite busy, so you may only get a couple, and 1 or 2 videos from me. But I'm sure that probably won't be too hard to go without. I'm sure. So yeah, guys, like I say, thank you very much for watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope that you enjoyed it. And go sit down and watch a film. Get a bowl of popcorn or something and treat yourselves. You deserve it. You do. You've worked hard. So, guys, thank you very much. See you later. Peace. And don't feed mugwise after midnight. Watch out. Cheers, guys. See you later. Thank you. Bye.